The stores are watching us. Let's talk about it on Azimuth Podcast. I'm Kimberly McNabb, and with me as always is my husband, Barrett McNabb.
Thanks, Kimberly. So retail chains, internal security forces. That sounds so weird to say. Internal security forces. Wow. Investigate thefts and go through security camera footage. They track license plates, and they connect the dots of criminal networks. Then they share their investigations that contain the bulk of the evidence needed by police to then get search warrants. Remember, these are private corporations, and therefore they don't need to have the different burdens of proof and get
Worry
a judge.
about jurisdictions and stuff. They just basically package it up for the police and
hand
here
it
you
over.
go,
Yeah.
and they can get search warrants.
So retailers say that all the in-store security measures, the locked-up laundry detergent, the separate makeup section at Walmart are emblematic of the ongoing threat of organized retail crime, which typically involves groups of low-level thieves who steal items for middlemen who then sell the items on eBay, on Amazon, and people that are unsuspecting customers hunting for deals. And, it's pretty sad. These investments, though, can translate into higher prices for consumers as they make these
They have higher costs. They have to charge higher prices.
Exactly. If they're having to hire specialists that can look at cameras, if they have specialists that type up AI programs to look for certain behaviors, all that costs money.
Recognize faces,
and things like that. So we have a friend of ours that started out after he graduated college with a degree in criminal justice as asset protection and loss prevention. And so the loss prevention, I believe, was focused on internal. So employees stealing from the company, right? So whether they have a shirt and they want to buy it for themselves, but they cover the tag and as it goes across the scanner and walk out with it themselves, they have the ability to utilize the
ink stain
removers and things like that. And then the asset protection was for shoplifters, right? So, but he was employed full time. The little plastic black domes, the cameras that are up there, he gave me a tip. Not every one of those has a camera in it. And so a lot of them
get people
to think they're being watched.
Way.
Yeah. And so he would, let's just say there's 100 of them, only a third of them have actual cameras that are in there, at least at the time he was doing this. And he would, after hours, get up in the crawl space above the ceiling, and he would move the cameras around. And so you didn't know. So there's only a third of the cameras, but you didn't know because they're all dark, right? You can't see. But he would, he would move things around, and so it was kind of this guessing game of which one has the cameras and which ones don't. Now with the advent of AI, it's not just a single person staring at all those cameras. But he also had plainclothes people that kind of walked around the store and looked at people to see if they were putting stuff in their bags and stuff like that. But really, again, having this become more robust than it did even 20 years ago, you're right. It's going to be higher prices for consumers. And, of course, you have civil liberty advocates claiming that the surveillance technology used by retailers can infringe on individuals' privacy. But the way I look at it, you are now on private property, right? You're now in the store. You're now in the store.
You don't have to be there.
Right. You're voluntary. And I would say that, you probably just need to have a sign on the outside, FYI, by walking in the store, you're going to be monitored by cameras.
Right. Well, I know certain parts of the country, they monitor speed by laser from an airplane or something.
Right, yeah.
So it's pretty much in 2024, assume people are watching you all the time.
Exactly.
But, while retailers have long partnered with law enforcement, the industry has bolstered its own role in recent years, devoting more staff and financial resources to thwart theft. including Home Depot. They have invested in police-like investigation centers to sift through data and pinpoint theft group members. And where law enforcement agencies sometimes face jurisdictional limits to their investigations, retailers can track cases across state and county lines, especially these big corporate box retailers that go, they're in every state, with increasingly sophisticated tools such as AI that identify faces and patterns.
Yeah, I mean, that's a, again, that just can't hit that home enough. I mean, by being able to collect data across state lines and have a unity of effort in getting that data, and you're not having to, be a police force that has to go get a warrant from a judge and then make coordinations to go across state lines because the person resides across state lines, and then even to have to extradite the person back across state line. I mean,
right.
Being a big company that have stores everywhere and to have these command centers, I think it's a huge ease to collect all this data and then give it to the police officers wrapped in a package with a cherry on top.
Well, also, in the era of defund the police, of course, the police departments aren't going to have the resources that corporations have. But, critics charge that the industry has exaggerated the issue to achieve policy goals or justify store closures caused by underperformance. I heard a story about, people who have their Walgreens closed because, there was so much theft and so they couldn't, afford to keep the doors open. And so when they closed up shop, they're like, hey, that's racist. No, stop stealing. And if you know someone who stole, tell them to take it back or something.
Right. I mean, we all see those videos of these flash mobs coming in and just ransacking a store.
Well, also me personally, I mean, in certain areas, you go to a retail store, I mean, it is so common to see open packages on the shelf. They're not making it up. I mean, it's happening at these stores in lower income neighborhoods. It's not happening at Whole Foods. It's happening at Walmart and places like that. And, now I don't notice at Dollar General because it always looks like a bomb went off.
That's true.
But still, most retailers insist they have seen an uptick in organized theft. About 90% of asset protection professionals surveyed last year said that crime has become more of a risk over the prior 3 years. And, what happened 3 years ago? I mean, you have change in presidents, you have change in leaders, you have the defund movement, the police movement.
Right. Yeah, a lot of times you have talking heads on major news networks that are, and even some politicians as well that point to crime going down. And if crime is going down, then how are these flash mobs being filmed on YouTube? How are these stores, continuously losing revenue and they have to close it down? And it's not because crime is going down. It's because whatever you cherry pick to say crime is going down, you grabbed a statistic on a crime, nuclear weapon theft. It's gone way down. Nuclear weapon theft has gone way down, and so therefore we can just say crime has gone down.
Well, certain police departments have chosen not to report it. And, if citizens and companies, businesses get fed up enough and they know the police aren't going to come, then they're not going to call it in either. So you have multiple factors that can play into those phony numbers.
Yeah. I mean, but I think it's disingenuous to say that because obviously we can see that this organized crime has this uptick, and these companies are reporting major losses. I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Also, it's not free to lock up all the makeup at Walmart.
Right.
I mean, that stuff costs money, and so they would not invest in those things if people weren't stealing it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the added security, locks, gates, cameras, other tech and stuff like that to deter theft. But Home Depot said, unfortunately, this creates an environment for our customers that isn't very friendly.
And they wonder why people are ordering more stuff online, like, Yeah, if I can't get it somewhere physical and I have to wait for a person to show up to get basic things, I'll just order it online.
Which is crazy and ironic because a lot of these things are being stolen and then sold online. So
and then you have the porch pirates
yeah,
too.
and I'm not savvy enough. When you go to Amazon, I don't know what's being sold exactly by Amazon and what's being sold by a third-party vendor that is using Amazon as well. So I'm assuming it's the third-party vendors that you would have to take a look at.
Washington State Attorney General Bob Ferguson said when asked by CNN about the role of retailers, everything you're seeing in these probable cause statements is what you would see in case after case after case as we go forward with this work.
Yeah, obviously it's a problem, and we know it's a problem because organizations and companies are addressing it. Right. If it wasn't a problem, there would be nothing for them to address. And for companies like Home Depot or Walmart to get as sophisticated as they are in order to combat this just leads me to believe that it is a huge problem. Yeah. Otherwise, you wouldn't make that significant investment. But the article also said that organized retail crime cases are inherently complex anyway to investigate and prosecute, especially for these local agencies with limited resources. So if you think the police can't investigate the crimes, so why would you not want a public-private partnership?
Right.
I mean, because obviously the companies have. I mean, they have a budget, but you would effectively say it's almost unlimited, for what they can do. I mean, if you think that they're losing $300 million, dollars a year in was it called shrinkage? Is that?
Yeah, that's one way they put it.
But if they're losing $300 million, if they invested $100 million to prevent that $300 million, then they're effectively saving $200 million.
Right, and that's probably the math they're using. But also another problem is in a lot of jurisdictions, you're not allowed to chase shoplifters out of the store.
Right.
Well, that would be a deterrent if you know somebody's going to chase you.
Right.
And so companies have to do something. But, these businesses, they're the ones with the skin in the game. They're the ones that pay the price if people steal their stuff. And they want to stay in business. And, they don't just have customers to answer to. They don't just have their employees to answer to. Like if they go out of business, those are people without jobs. They also have shareholders.
Exactly.
So I don't think the companies are doing this just to be mean or just to be racist. They're doing this so they can stay in business.
Yeah, I would have to say that companies don't do knee-jerk all that often.
No.
And so this has been a measured response to solve the problem that they have. But, there's been cases like Linda Ann Bean, an Oklahoma woman, that she was sentenced to more than 5 years in prison earlier this month for managing an organized theft ring that federal prosecutors say stole about $9 million of property from retailers. So, again, this is not $9
million. Wow.
Not the $900 that
Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, exactly. To go from a misdemeanor to a felony, and they keep raising that limit so that people can do it. So this is not just a one-time $900 theft. This is hundreds of people organized stealing property to equal $9 million. Mm-hmm. And according to the state affidavit, the case was largely began with an investigator for CVS, which is a pharmacy if you don't have one in your area, who noticed a trend of thefts at his company stores in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area. And he used records to link low-level thieves who physically robbed the stores with Bean and shared his findings with a local detective. So again, this really was kind of a manager that was kind of doing this on his own, right? But the investigation later revealed how Bean had provided the thieves with a list of items. So again, this is organized, right? Because this is what I want. So here's my shopping list to steal from businesses across multiple states. Again, that's going to confound the police because we have multiple jurisdictions, multiple police departments, state, local, things like that. And I don't think this is a federal crime. So there's not going to be the FBI looking in. Maybe I misspoke. I'm not sure, but still, the company, the CVS, is in multiple states, and so they can coordinate their efforts. But the items were organized at a warehouse in a boutique clothing shop in a suburb of Tulsa. And what I thought that was really interesting, and it was
CVS items in a boutique shop.
yeah, exactly.
Weird.
So anyway, Bean is somebody that in the criminal world they're called a fence. And a fence is somebody that buys stolen stuff and then kind of moves it along. They kind of act as that middleman. But anyway, these fences outside of Oklahoma, who in turn sold the products through websites including eBay and Amazon, like we've said before, to other customers. But the critics say the police are public entities. You can send them a public records request. You can elect a mayor who may want to bring change in the police department. You can't do that with a giant corporation. You have very little control over the technology they deploy and how they deploy it and what they do with that data. And that is the rub of people saying that, corporations are not accountable, local police are, but maybe that's a good thing in this case.
You've defunded the police and you have all these DAs that don't prosecute crime, then somebody has to take it into their own hands. And some people say that the federal level needs to do more. A bill in Congress has received criticism. This enforcement first response, we don't think that leads to crime deterrence. Chloe White, an attorney with the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, told CNN. Well, if it punishes crime, then yes, it would. Okay? Enforcement, people see other people getting the law enforced for other people. They don't want to do it. People respond to incentive and deterrence structures. That's why more people don't murder their bosses, because they don't want to go to jail.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the big things on crime and punishment, is that the punishment needs to be swift, certain, and severe. And so swift, speedy trial, not dragging this thing out. Plus the Constitution says you need to get a speedy trial. Certain that you've done X and Y will happen to you, right? And then severe. It needs to be bad enough that I'm not going to ever do this again, and bad enough so that other people say, oh, I don't want that to happen to me. I'm not going to do anything either. So really that swift, certain, and severe is crucial for this deterrence. But major online marketplaces say they've taken steps to combat such crime as well. So Amazon touts a program that applies unique codes to certain products that can be used to detect and track stolen items. Mike Carson, eBay's senior director of global policy, said eBay has safeguards, including automated processes that flag irregularities among items for sale, which then can prompt further investigation. So this is really good that we have, effectively the end user, if you will, of a stolen product. It's gone from the person that has initially stolen it to the fence, to somebody else who then sells it. And so now we have the end user, eBay, Amazon, other online places, getting into the game. And so it's going to be another peg that's going to slow down, hopefully, retail theft. Yep. So we saw this article, and we wanted to bring it to your attention. And thank you so much for watching Azimuth Podcast. Please stay tuned after these messages.